brothers and sisters. So just to move on to today, the fourth rule, which is to speak about desolation. But just to finish off something from the third rule, which we spoke about consolation, one of the things that Dan listed there and is based on St. Ignatius of Loyola is the experience of sorrow of sin being an experience of consolation. And we might think this is a bit bizarre. Why would something that we would associate as something negative as sorrow be considered something as consolation? One of the things he gives is the example of his own life, where before he became Catholic, he had a particular hostile view of Catholic devotion to Mary, and even in his own life towards the Blessed Mother Mary. And it was not till he was at a mass one day that he saw this image of Our Lady with swords going into her heart when he had become Catholic, that he was pierced in his own heart with a profound understanding of his sin, of the dishonor he had to Mary, the ill feelings he had towards her. And you know, this sorrow in his heart cleansed his heart, brought about a humility and brought about a consolation. He said he didn't feel joyful, but it was still, nevertheless, you could say, a cleansing of his heart that brought about a deeper union with God, a peace, a sense of relief that when we experience sorrow for sin, it's a good thing. It's something that it can feel good, can experience as a spiritual delight, even though it might not be same as joy. I think you have a sense of what I might be speaking about. And so anytime the Lord pierces our heart, it might be painful, but it's cleansing, and it is really a consolation from him. Today we want to speak about desolation, and it's important because as we're navigating consolations and desolations in this spiritual life, I mean, so many saints have built their life based on this Ignatian tradition, and so many Catholics live with this tradition. It's good for us to explore these things and for us to have a sense of how to navigate the interior life. So what exactly is desolation? Well, in the words of the great St. Ignatius of Loyola, I call desolation all the contrary of the third rule, aka consolation, such as darkness of soul, disturbance in it, movement to low and earthly things, disquiet from various agitations and temptations, moving to lack of confidence, hopelessness, finding oneself totally slothful, tepid, sad, and as if separated from one's Creator and Lord. For just as consolation is contrary to desolation, in the same way the thoughts that come from consolation are contrary to the thoughts that come from desolation. So basically we could say desolation is any movement in our soul and in our spirit that leads us towards our lower nature and inclinations, something that leads us towards doubt, despair, narcissism, and over preoccupation with self and selfishness. These are being inspired or prompted in us, can be, by the bad spirits. So basically, when I'm in desolation, I experience kind of movement to doubt, despair, narcissism, or some combination of all these movements to lower and earthly things that draws our attention to our lower natures, more of our base nature, as opposed to desire for heavenly things and spiritual truths. We could lose a taste for spiritual and heavenly truths or spiritual things, and often desolation can be very difficult to pray or to draw ourselves towards God or towards committing good or doing his will. So basically we have a decrease in love of God and heavenly things. We have basically darkness of soul, disturbance. It's almost like a veil sometimes is pulled over us. A disquiet with agitations and temptations, as we said. And we often lose confidence. Maybe the Lord might have been asking us to do something for him, and all of a sudden we lose confidence in it. We have lose hope. We lose love for the particular task. We might be feeling lazy, tepid, sad. Just the sense of being separated from God. All these things can be thrown up in us by the evil spirits to dissuade us to continue on the path with God. We'll speak about what we should do in the next video too, about when we're in such a soul. But for now, let's just continue kind of opening up this experience of desolation. Dan says that for someone just beginning to explore the spiritual desolation, to explore the spiritual discipline and ascent to God, desolation is actually an easy experience to kind of define an experience rather than consolation. The challenge is that when we are in desolation, if we are just at the beginning of our journey, of learning to fight it. It can be quite debilitating. It can be quite overwhelming when we're now advancing on the spiritual life to encounter such states. And if we don't have much of the experience of surpassing desolation and moving on to consolation and moving on to God, those earlier stages, if we don't have that knowledge of victory that a later soul would have, we could be quite discouraged to give up. If we recognize what is happening, it won't seem as if we can do anything about it. The experience can be so powerful that it feels as though we can't escape, we can't fight, or we can't make the decision we know is right in spite of our knowledge or desire. It is as if we had a spell cast over us, or as if we have woken up on the wrong side of the bed, and all is dark and repulsive to us, and we can't conceive of snapping out of it. But Dan says, by God's grace, if often his experiences is, and so many people, if we push through that, God's strength will come. We'll speak about this tomorrow.